Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Haha, I forgot to actually bring us back. Off day at the bar, folks. We're never here on a Thursday, but here we are on a Thursday night. We're bellied up to the bar, but we're going to talk about a subject tonight. You're probably all thinking like, well, why? Because you just never know when shit's going to happen. So you got to be ready. You got to be set. You got to be prepared. So we're talking about being prepared. This was actually the first, if you go back to my first show that I ever did, where I thought I knew what I was doing and I didn't, but my guest was amazing. And we had, I can't remember her first name, and she's awesome. Rogue Prep, the Rogue Preparedness, Rogue Prep. I can't remember her name.
Oh, you had Rogue on.
Rogue. She was my
I'm following Rogue.
Guest.
Oh, no.
First ever guest. She is awesome.
She's amazing. She's amazing. Let's just lower the bar then. Let's just, if Rogue was the first one, we'll just lower the bar a little bit.
Oh, you're not on Rogue level? Casey, you ain't on Rogue level?
So I had no idea. I had no idea.
See, you can tell when people didn't go back and see. We're gonna put Mr. Casey on the spot. So we've got with us today a man. He's got his own website. He's got his own YouTube channel, and I'm always been a big believer in prepping, in the idea of prepping, because I think too many of us have this. We watched all the doomsday prepper shows, and we've watched the build a bunker shows, and here's your score, and our experts say that you've got a 6-month survival ability. You need to go ahead and work on this, that, and the other thing. And then the guy's like, so listen here, I do not believe anything you have said. I believe that my preps are perfectly fine, and this is all going to work out so good for my family. We've watched them. I love those shows, but I love prepping. So with us today is Casey and I learned how to say this word today, Cascadia Dispatch, based on, and we can get into that piece too, the Cascadia, what was it? Impact zone?
The subduction zone earthquake. So that's what started the whole thing. It's about much more than that, but that's what kicked it off.
So welcome to the bar there, Casey.
Thanks for having me. Thursday, it's like a happy hour.
It's like
Thursday,
happy hour.
Thursday, or whatever it is.
There you go.
Special occasion.
So we don't never do these, but as always, before we get started, folks, we got to do our house cleaning here at the bar. As I fixed my mic, I was playing with it earlier. I got to fix this a little bit. We've bellied up to the bar with Casey today, and we got to do the house cleaning. So as always, sticker and a cause over my right shoulder. We got the board. If you've got a podcast, you've got a prepper group that you belong to, you're the what is it? I can't remember the Star Wars group, 51st, 551st, or whatever it is. Anything that you're into, another organization, hit me up. Our Facebook, the Above the Bar podcast, our Twitter at Above the Bar 4, our Instagram, the Above the Bar podcast, and our email is theabovethebarpodcast@gmail.com. Send me a message. Let me know what you got. I'll give you an address to send it to. It won't be one of these like crazy deals where you have to send it to my Black Ops purchaser, who then contacts someone else and then gets it sent to me, so the government never knows I got your sticker. You can just send it to me. We're good. We'll be perfectly fine. I know.
Work with Black Ops. Black Ops are gray ops. Nothing else.
No, Casey, I know a guy like that. I know that guy. I worked with that guy.
Yeah.
Who would buy things and would not buy them directly because he didn't want the government to know that he purchased it. So he had like a third party buyer who would then send it to him. And I was always like, isn't that illegal?
Yeah, there's a level of tinfoil involved in that whole process that I just can't. I don't have time for.
You and me both. And the other side to this, folks, is as always, we got to talk about our sponsor. if you feel like your media is not prepped enough and can't hold up to the apocalypse or a snowstorm or whatever it is you need, make sure you contact Media by Dibs, your connection for all things media, from logos to marketing campaigns, flyers. He can make you a flyer where to find your preps. He can create you a map of it. Make your ideas a reality. Mention the phrase belly up to the bar for 10% off your first order and for a free consultation. So that's a little bit of everything. So Casey, tell everybody about what is Cascadia Dispatch.
What is Cascadia Dispatch, and why are we here, and why do we care? So Cascadia Dispatch, I have put the tagline on it: prepping for non-preppers. And the reason that I did that is a lot of about 5 or 6 years ago. I read the article about the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, which nobody talked about. Everyone was focused on the San Andreas fault, the big one. I live in Oregon, so Oregon, Washington, California, you basically grow up waiting for the big one to just annihilate everything. And it's all about San Andreas and the rock and all the things. Anyway, so about 5 or 6 years ago, there was an article that came out on the real big one, and no one was really talking about it. And it's the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, which is an area off of the Pacific where two major plates come together, tectonic plates come together, and every so often, about every, I don't know, it's 300, 700 years, something like that, there is usually a rip in that plate, and it's a pretty reliably large earthquake. And the last one happened, and I want to say like the 1700s or something. So nobody was really writing it down, and they can look at kind of the sentiment and stuff to see it. But we're about 150 years overdue for the on average time that these earthquakes hit. And they usually register between like a 9.2 and a 9.8, depending on how much they go.
Now, I'm on the East Coast.
Yep.
So put that in perspective to us. Oh, look at that. Dibs is here. That's our media advice.
Dibs has made it.
Dibs made it. That's what's important to me. So put that number 9.2 in perspective to, like, I'm on the East Coast.
Yeah.
That really, I know it from other things. Like if you told me, hey, it's Cat 4, I know what that means. Yeah. I'm on the East Coast.
Yep. All right. So let's talk like hurricane, similar destruction levels.
Right.
So similar destruction level, you're looking at a Cat 5 plus in a hurricane situation. If it rips the way that it is, that it could, and part of it is, they talk about if it's a partial rip and it goes basically from Southern California up and stops about Northern California, that'll be one level. If it's a full rip and it goes from California all the way up into Canada, then it's a whole different ballgame. But it's basically total destruction of most things west of the Cascade mountain range. So you're looking at, and part of the thing is like when you had the big hurricanes last year and the year before, and we had, Puerto Rico got wiped out at the same time that Texas and Louisiana got wiped out. And you had, cities on the coast that were damaged and destroyed, and you had people coming in and all that sort of stuff. This would be take out Seattle, take out Portland, take out LA, take out Sacramento, take out San Francisco, take them all out.
Now, when you say take them out, like tidal wave, take it out, or just their buildings aren't built to sustain this, so it's going to do massive damage, like World Series San Francisco kind of damage.
So I want to say World Series San Francisco was a 7 or an 8. And the way the Richter scale works is it's orders of magnitude 10. So it's not a 7, and the difference between a 7 and an 8 is not you went from 7 to 8. It's basically 100 to 1,000. You're jumping. So an 8 to a 9 is 10 times more powerful than an 8.
Holy shit.
And so you're talking 9.2s, 9.8. You're getting up there. The buildings are not meant to sustain it. They're starting to try to retrofit some buildings to manage it.
Yeah, but how do you even? I mean, you're.
Oh yeah,
it's trying to put a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound. That's just.
It would be a huge undertaking. A lot of the bridges and infrastructure are not designed a lot of it's because the recency bias. The thing with the East Coast and hurricanes is hurricanes come every year, so
Yeah,
you
we know it.
remember that. Earthquakes come, but usually they're 5, 6s on the West Coast, and they shake a little bit, and sometimes they break a little something. But
Right.
there hasn't really been a 9.0 earthquake in 100 years. I want to say the big San Francisco earthquake, I think
From
was a
like the
9.
early 1900s one.
Exactly. So there aren't really people that are remembering and saying, hey, I remember when all the buildings came
Right.
down. Like, that's not a thing. And the last time that this happened, there wasn't TV and internet and all that stuff. It was hundreds of years ago. So people aren't really thinking about it. They're thinking about an earthquake in the context of 5s and 6s that we get, regularly. They're not thinking of 9s. And so things like bridges get built, and they aren't sustained. Like, we're talking about infrastructure and a lot of infrastructure
Oh, we've got enough
conversations.
issues with that.
Yeah, the bridges are not meant to do that. Well, a lot of utility lines run on bridges across rivers. So most of the utilities, for example, in Portland, they run over the bridges because there's a river that runs through the middle of Portland. So even if the buildings stay up, the bridges are going to come down, which is going to cut the utility lines basically to the west side of the Portland area and Oregon. You've got similar situations in California. You've got similar situations in Washington. And so you're going to have a tsunami effect on the coast. So they talk about, depending on how big it is and everything, you may have 10 minutes, you may have 15 minutes, you may have 20 minutes. But the tsunami is coming and it's taking everything out. There will not be anything for the most part outside of the tsunami evacuation zones on most of the coastline. It'll be gone.
Cheap real estate. I mean, pick up some cheap real estate.
Yeah. I mean, my wife is always like, hey, let's go to the beach. And I was like, for the day, sure. For like a long period of time, no, not so much. And it's fun to visit and everything, but like, I always now make sure that like we know where the evacuation zones are. We know where the car is. We know, like, if we heard a siren, like how far it is to run. Because there is nothing to save you really on the coast.
Well, what was the one that the big tsunami about 5-10 years ago in, what was it, Thailand or?
Yeah, I think it was Thailand or Vietnam or something. It was Southeast Asia.
Yes.
May have been Malaysia. But there have been a couple big ones over there.
And if you've never seen what these are like, so folks, this isn't like, oh look, there's a wave off to the side, we could see that. That's so pretty. No, this thing just shows up as a singular wall of moving water. It's not a cresting wave. It just gets there and keeps pushing forward. And then when it finally ends, the rip current that comes back with it drags everything out to sea.
Yeah, they are. You want to talk about force of nature? They are forces of nature. Water does not care. It is just going to barrel through everything. So, I mean, think about, when we talk about hurricanes and floods and things, and you watch cars, going down rivers because there was a lot of rain. This is the ocean. This is a big part of the ocean. It's just going to come in and leave.
Be a Sharknado.
Yeah, exactly.
Will be a Sharknado. You will.
That would almost be preferable to this. So that's an issue. And then you've got a lot of major cities that are built right in the valley, I-5 corridor style. All of that is going to be just rocked. The buildings will come down, infrastructure will come down. You'll have houses and things that'll still be standing because they're built maybe to better code and that sort of thing. But all of the underlying infrastructure, power lines, water lines, gas lines, all of that will likely be ruptured. Especially in Oregon, we have all of our utilities for the most part underground. It avoids, rain, and it avoids storms and that sort of thing. But if you got an earthquake, well, you've just sheared all of your gas lines and water lines and all of that. So it's kind of a race right now to harden the infrastructure so that at least some of those systems would work if this were to occur. So that's the Cascadia earthquake. So I read about that, and I'm in my normal day job, I'm a marketing analyst. So I work with numbers and trends and patterns all day long. And when I was reading the article, I don't subscribe to, I'm going to worry about asteroids. I'm going to worry about UFOs. I'm going to like I often say, like, we're a tinfoil free hat zone at Cascadia Dispatch. Like, it's prepping. It's 100% tinfoil free, except for what you put in your, go bag or whatever. You just can't prepare for everything.
Right.
But this has a repeatable pattern. There's thousands of years. Yeah, there's thousands of years. This has happened multiple times, and it happens at a regular interval. And so the likelihood that it's going to happen again, it's not a matter of if, it's when, and it's overdue by averages. So it becomes very tangible as a threat. So I realized I grew up and I had never gone camping. I am not an outdoorsman. I am not I'm woefully unprepared. And realized I was traveling.
What was that feeling like when you were like, yeah, like
it is
I'm getting eaten. I'm getting eaten in the first couple hours here.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not good. And for me, as a researcher, as an analyst, as a strategic person in general, I was like, okay, we've got to fix this immediately. There's the immediate fix, and then there's the better fix. And so I remember calling my wife. I sent the article to my wife, and as I was driving back from Seattle, because I was up for business, and realized that I was going to be doing this, and the bridges would go out, and if this happened, I'd have to walk home, and my family had nothing, to protect them, and all of that sort of stuff. We didn't have sleeping bags, we didn't have tents, we had nothing. We came home, and the next day I made my first trip. I think we went to Dick's Sporting Goods first, and then I made my first visit to Cabela's.
Manland.
And all of a sudden, real fast, my favorite store went from Best Buy to Cabela's real fast.
Is Cabela's not the most amazing place?
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
If you haven't been to it yet, you have to go to the Cabela's in Hamburg, Pennsylvania.
I will put that on the list. I have not been to Hamburg, Pennsylvania, but if I ever go there, I will definitely check it out.
Casey, let me explain this to you real quick. I'll let you keep going.
Yeah.
I used to go past this thing all the time. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was in charge of a recruiting command, a recruiting station. That was my territory. And we'd drive past this empty field. And the only thing that was up there was one gas station with a Burger King. And around the corner, there was like a private school and this big ass cornfield. Cabela's came and bought that bitch. There's hotels there. There's McDonald's there. There's like an entire community popped up because this thing showed up. And that one, I don't know about any of the other ones, but that one has the whitetail trophy room that has every single American whitetail trophy, some real and some reproduction antlers in it.
Oh, wow.
Like shit that you're like, this, like there's one called the popcorn buck, and all over it, instead of it being normal tines, it's like, looks like popcorn had exploded all over his tines. And there's another one called the knife handle. Every single tine is exactly the same height. All the way around. That's
incredible.
It's wild. So go ahead. So you got to go to Cabela's. You fell in love because it's an amazing place, and
it's fantastic. Ours has like a whole fish aquarium thing with like salmon and stuff in it because we're West Coast. It's what we do. So it was basically run out and it was buy stuff. It was, we need sleeping bags, we need tent, we need, if this thing happened tonight, what would we need? Like I said, we didn't go camping. We had none of these things. And then I started researching, and I like to say that I tried to go to the bottom of the internet. I try to do that frequently. When there's something that I just research everything I can find.
Oh, okay. I thought that was like some underground like marketing thing. Like, well, if you go to this location, this is a special website just for us extra internet people.
No. You got like the dark web and that sort of stuff. But this is more of we refer to it as going to the bottom of the internet because it's normally somebody will say, oh, I need this, and they Google it, and the first result is what they go with, and that's what they have. For me, it was weeks and weeks and months of just Googling and researching and YouTube videos and trying to talk to friends and find sites that people didn't know about and what were all the tips and tricks and things. And it's, you initially roll out and you think, okay, there's a checklist. I'm going to get these 10 things and I will be prepared. Right. And what you slowly realize, well, not slowly, you quickly realize is this is a never-ending thing. You can never be fully prepared. You can just be better prepared than you were yesterday. And so we ended up going out, we got some stuff, and then it was, okay, we have family nearby. What do we need for them? What do we need food wise? What are options? We have my son has a bunch of food allergies. Okay, we can't have regular freeze dried food. We got to have other freeze dried food. What does that look like? And as I was doing this, and people who had known me for years were like, why are you getting a tent? Why do you have a GPS? When I went camping for the first time and put that on Facebook, people I went to high school with were like, are you having a stroke? Did you is something horribly wrong? Is this your midlife crisis? Like, what is happening?
Did you?
And I would,
oh my God.
yeah, they were like, what is going, because I was at for me growing up, roughing it was we would go to a hotel and there was no remote control and the room service stopped at 10 o'clock. That was as roughing it as I ever wanted to get. Camping, out in nature, no, we can go for a hike and then we can go back to the Marriott. That's the thing. So when I said I'm going camping for the first time, the number of people who had wanted to go camping and offered to go camping and begged me to go camping through the years were just dumbfounded. And so I basically was like, hey, I read this thing. It changed my mind. And it was basically once I read that thing, my filter on life had changed forever. And it has just continued to be that. It's kind of I liken it to, when I had kids, when I got married, there are just moments in your life where it's not even where you recognize it. It's just life has changed and things were different. There was the before time and the now time.
Pre-article and post-article.
Exactly. Pre-kids, post-kids, pre-wife, post-wife, pre-article, post-article. And so then it just became, friends would start to ask me because they were like, well, if you're doing this, should we be doing it? And I was like, yes, you should be doing it. And here is what you would do. And the website came out of trying to come up with a way to communicate this to people who I knew. So I didn't have to say it over and over and over and over again. It's okay, hey, I've looked at this. Here's what you need to go get that. And then the YouTube channel came out of that because I had people who were reading it. And for me, it actually took longer to type the articles than it did to make a video because I was doing the same thing. And so then I started the YouTube channel out of all of that. So it's designed to be prepping for people who are not into camo and, are not hiding in the woods. We're not wearing tinfoil hats. It's your neighbor. It's the person down the street. A lot of people have prepping channels and they have all kinds of amazing backgrounds. It is not by accident that I have, Legos.
I'm about to say you have an amazing Lego collection.
Yes.
Behind you that I was already spying. I was like, oh, there's Stormtrooper, there's Darth Vader.
You can't be too intimidated by Legos. The guy who has all the Legos can't be that scary. And so that's part of it.
You got the sneaker. Is that the Adidas sneaker?
No. That's actually a limited, I think it was limited edition, University of Oregon Nike trainer that they came out with.
See, I knew that there was a sneaker. I was already spying it. I was like,
yeah,
you got all kinds of cool. Because we've definitely had plenty of collectors and other we geek out pretty good.
Yeah, that was the University of Oregon represented right there. Next to a picture of my wife and I. We were at a wedding. So that's kind of like the reminiscing thing, and then it's just Legos all over everywhere else.
I see the Iron Man, the Boba Fett.
Yeah, and then what's been fun is actually the community kind of jumped in the Lego thing. I had a couple of Legos. I had the Millennium Falcon, I had the Shield.
Oh, okay.
And the Death Star, and a bunch of people in the comments on my video started commenting about them, and so I was like, all right, let's go. And so now every couple of months, I run a poll on the channel to say, okay, what should we change the theme out to? So we just had Harry Potter for a few months, and then they opted for science. So now we've got the fossils and the space shuttle and all of that. And then my kids get to build them all. So they're excited because Daddy orders crazy Legos and they get to build them all.
Well, that was something I was going to say. As I'm listening to you and you're talking about these things, you know, we were talking earlier. I double booked. It was my own fault. Just, everyone wants to come to
You're a
the bar.
busy guy. It happens.
It happens. Um, but we were talking like, hey, how about, are you available? Nope, can't do it Friday. Going to see the new Eternals movie with the kids. And I was like, this isn't your average prepper.
No.
We talked about our first ever episode. We had Rogue on. She's amazing, but she is hardcore. When I met her, she was living in the high plains deserts in Arizona, and I didn't even pick up on it till probably a month or so ago. She's now in Alaska
Yep.
with the
Yep.
kids, and I'm like,
And the
and
milk chickens. If you ever talk to her again, ask her about the milk chickens.
I'll have to ask her about milk chickens. I did have to tell her about the garlic because she was planting garlic and she was a little late. I do garlic. I plant about 100 bulbs a year,
Yeah.
and I plant garlic. And she was like just starting to put it in the ground, and it was after. It was either on the 31st or just after, and I was like, the soil looked great. It was like as black as night, the
Yep.
soil. But all I could think to myself was, you are a little late getting that in. Like December, like October 31st is the last day you want to put it in the ground, and you want to
Yeah.
make it sure it's before the ground is frozen,
Oh yeah.
and then you pull it out 4th of July, right around
Yeah.
then. But I was thinking about this with you, and I was like, my man is like, he's a geek like me.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, and I tell this to people all the time, they're like, my wife and I would call us preppers like you are.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 different go bags.
Yep.
I've got, plenty of small arms, right, long guns, but smaller stuff.
Yep.
If I really, really had to go that far. But I have a generator. And I tell people all the time, you're a prepper. And they're like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yes, you are. They're like, no, I'm not. I'm like, then you're telling me if I walked into your home right now, you have 1 roll of toilet paper, you have 1 can of food, you have nothing else in your cabinets but a singular for that day, and that's the end of it. And they're like, well, no. Then you prepped for the week and for other meals and to get yourself ready in case you needed to do something. They're like,
Yep.
what? I'm like, you're a freaking prepper. That's what humans do. Just some people go to it a little bit more extreme. They're like couponers.
Exactly. It depends on the duration and the reason, the eventuality of what you're prepping for. And I think a lot of times people hear about preppers and it's okay, it's in the woods and it's the apocalypse and zombies and everything
Yes.
else. And it's like, I talk a lot more about, there's snowstorms and blackouts and job loss. And there's a lot of things that are going to happen that are way more frequent and common than an asteroid or an earthquake or a hurricane or something. But if you've prepared for that big kind of next level natural disaster in your area, then likely you will be okay when the smaller things come. If you're prepping for an earthquake and you're preparing to have a few weeks without power, when there's a snowstorm like we had last year, and a lot of the area, a lot of Portland was out of power because it was an ice storm that nobody foresaw. You have batteries and generators and food and you're covered, and it's not as big of a deal. Everybody runs out and goes and tries to get everything, and it causes an extra shortage, which when you had COVID shortages to begin with, right. Okay, now you're doubly short. So that's one of those things that I often tell people too, like when they're saying, what gear should I get? I'm like, well, do you go camping? Yeah, we go camping. You're 80% of the way there.
Yeah, you're good.
You have shelter and fire and cooking materials and all that sort of stuff. You can add some other things to it, but you could bug in, you could bug out as far, sleep on your driveway or something. Like, you've got options. You don't need tons and tons more gear.
See, and I think, now this is what I'm curious of, and I love your approach to it. It's, you don't need you don't need to buy a decommissioned Marine Corps 5-ton that you've somehow built the back of it into a shelter combat zone with, shooting sites and all this. Hey, power's going to go out, the Cascadia, I keep wanting to call it impact zone, but it's
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it'll be an impact. It'll be all of the things.
the Cascadia subterfusion zone.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm gonna so remember it at some point. But an event like that happens. That's the type of event that all of the country will, head that direction.
Yep.
You need to be able to make it 3 to 5 days.
You need to be able to, our plan is we need to be here for 2 weeks to a month.
Okay.
That depending on, because one of the things that we saw it in action is when the hurricane hit Louisiana and Houston, and it hit a third city. I don't remember which one it was. It may have been Puerto Rico. It may have been that trifecta, may have been another one. But FEMA was coming out and saying, we're out of stuff. We are stretched. We have no budget. We are stretched. If anything else happens, we have a problem. Well, that's Seattle, LA, Portland, before you get to San Francisco, Sacramento, Eugene, Tacoma, Olympia. I mean, you've got a scale there of people
Right.
and cities that's going to be larger than anything. And so people will
23
come.
million people.
People will come, but you're not talking about it hit one city and a couple of suburbs. It's taken out a whole side of the country. So you need to be able to get out of, be there, let everything settle, and then figure out how to get evacuated somewhere else. Because Chicago is going to be fine. Like
Right.
Chicago, Boston, Boise, Idaho. Like, I mean, you just need to get on the other side of the mountains,
Well,
and there will be
space in the Midwest.
Exactly. There will be plenty of places to be. If you have earthquake insurance, which I strongly recommend that people get.
Is that a thing?
Yes. It is not inexpensive. It's not super expensive. And what it does is it will cover, usually the deductible is 10 to 15% of the damage of your house or whatever. So if you get a little bit of damage, it's probably not going to cover it, and you're going to eat the cost. Right. If your house is flattened, you're going to get money for that, but your homeowner's insurance will not cover an earthquake. So if you have an earthquake, you don't. It's kind of like flood insurance and hurricane insurance. Most home insurance doesn't cover big natural disasters. They cover fire,
flood insurance out here.
Yeah, and so, but what it also covers is things like living expenses for a year. So if your home is damaged and you can't live in it, even if you don't replace it, you can still get living expenses. For example, a hotel or an apartment or something for 12 to 18 months or something, depending on what your policy has. And all the policies are different, and talk to your insurance agent. But our policy gives us some money for living expenses. It gives us some money for food. It gives us some money for clothing and supplies. Like if things are totally gone, like we have some money to go kind of get started somewhere.
Gotcha. See, I didn't even know that was a thing. I mean, it's just, one of the things that's interesting about this for me is you're on the left coast.
Yep.
I'm out on the East Coast.
Yep.
Grew up on the East Coast, lived here, even when I was in the Marine Corps, I spent most of my time on the East Coast or in Florida, a little bit out on the West, but it's very different what even your thoughts are. So like for me, it's, hey, we get one of these crazy snowstorms that starts snapping power lines. We've got nothing, we need to be prepared in that way. Like I'm putting the money away now. I want to switch out our fireplaces to propane.
Yep.
So that if something were to ever happen, I can go ahead and turn on the propane fireplace. We're good. No big deal.
Yep.
Whereas if it snaps and the power's done, that's an all bad. But that's an example. If you have a generator at your house, you're a prepper.
Yep.
You're prepping to shelter in place.
Last year, we just got a whole house generator.
Oh, the Generac?
Yes.
We
got the 22 kW Generac. Runs on natural gas. It's fantastic.
Oh, you suck even more now.
Yeah.
Casey, you suck. Like, so we don't have natural gas where I'm at. So my thoughts are it's around us, but just where we live, we're back off the road and there's just not here. So I was like, I'd rather have the natural gas one and just get a propane one to run off of, and we'll just run that. But I want to see and to me, that's still prepping, but it's shelter in place prepping.
Yeah. And for us, we did it because if the earthquake happens, the natural gas lines are toast, the generator's worthless.
Okay.
But more likely there will be a snowstorm. Portland, Oregon in general is not necessarily designed to deal with lots of snow and cold. Portland specifically is not. And
Okay.
so when we get a little bit of snow, a little bit of ice, schools close, like it's a nightmare.
It's
But
like the
when you get like
Carolinas.
a real ice storm, like we got last, every 5 or 6 years, we get a really good ice snowstorm. And it takes out power and every, 3 or 4 days without power. So if you're in that situation, natural gas will make a difference. There's also a lot of more strain on the grid system, and you've seen it in California with the rolling blackouts and things like that. Well, similar things are being discussed happening in Oregon and Portland, and then possibly up to Seattle and Washington. So if that happens, it's more likely that we're going to get a rolling blackout than we will, an earthquake. But in that case, natural gas will be totally fine.
Yeah, you're fine.
And we won't be affected by it. We looked at solar, doing like a whole house solar thing. The batteries still are just prohibitively expensive in Oregon to do that. In California, where you've got sun all the time and everything, like, okay, that maybe makes a little more sense. Oregon's still kind of pushing it to make that balance out with the natural gas. So we have a gasoline generator. So in case there's an earthquake, we can switch to that and run that a little bit. I've got a few 100-watt solar panels that we can put on the lawn and get that. And again, it's not going to power the whole house. It's not going to solve all of our problems, but it could get us the 2 to 4 weeks that we need to just get somewhere else where we're set.
Get you far enough.
Yeah, exactly.
See, and this is, and these are things that we're talking about it in the sense of disastrous things that could happen. But go to the next neighborhood barbecue, and I promise you, as the dads gather around the temple of the barbecue, they will have this conversation where somebody's like, "Hey, did you see I just picked up a new generator? Look at that over there. See that right there? That's a Generac 2200 running off of natural gas. I run the whole fucking neighborhood with that thing. You like that thing? That's beautiful, huh? You ain't got one like that. Your wife's got them fake gaboobies and everything, but I got a generator. You can't do nothing. You'll float on them things." Like, that's conversations that are happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting too, because you get into, there are a lot of things that enter into that conversation. The newest gadgets, the newest, I got, I got a GPS. Well, I got a satellite GPS. Well, I got a satellite GPS that has messaging capability. Like, there's, all of those sorts.
I wish one of my sons were down here. I would like to show you my radio, my weather radio. My weather radio, I've got two. I've got a little red cross.
Oh, yep, the crank.
The little crank,
the standard. Yep.
I have one that we purchased at a yard sale that still works. That takes what's the bigger batteries? It's C's or D's? D's. Takes 2 D batteries and is straight up military grade, water seal, clamped closed. Has an antenna. It's in my, like, I have a safe room. I don't give a shit.
That's fantastic. I've thought about turning our crawl space into a safe room.
Mine was more accidental. It was more to protect. I have collectibles.
Yep.
And all my hunting stuff and my firearms from my children. I don't want them to get into that room. I don't want any issues. And as it was being put together when our basement was being done, it was kind of like, the shit just became a safe room. And we're all like, yeah, it did, didn't it? Right. Yeah. That just happened.
Just put the access ports in and made it a bunker and called it a day.
And that's you. Now you look younger than me. That doesn't say much though. But one of the greatest things growing up as a kid, and I've always found this so fascinating, is when people are like, yeah, I bought this house and in the backyard there was a bunker.
Yes.
And I was always like, I want a bunker. Yeah. I've thought about it. I'm like, before COVID, Connex boxes were super cheap.
Oh yeah.
And you could just like dig them. And just remember, if you're going to do that, folks, you put them in upside down, and
Yeah.
then so that they hold better. Don't ask me why I know these things. I just know these things.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely have thought about it. So getting into the prepper gear, though. So some of the stuff we're talking about is there, like you said, your site, CascadiaDispatch.com. You have the YouTube channel, Cascadia Dispatch, and Cascadia is here. Well, for all of us that are really getting into prepping, it's Charlie Alpha Sierra, Charlie Alpha Delta India, Alpha Delta India, Sierra Papa Alpha Tango Charlie Hotel.
This brings me back to my ham radio class.
See, look at that. And then there's somebody told me the other day, I never knew there was a different, like, so there's the military phonetic alphabet, and there's like another one,
I think so.
And
I think I've seen a couple of different ones.
That's the only, there is no other one. That's the only one.
Yeah.
People, there's only one. It's just, don't give me I love it when I say Sierra to people and they're like, so it's C.
That's when you just hang up the ham radio. You're just like, no, we're done.
It's like, wow,
we're done.
I didn't know, but it's definitely here one of those kind of things. So what is something that you know, as people are getting into the prepping piece and they're reaching out to you, they're watching the YouTube channel and all that, there's plenty of things we can always say. Like my son and I'll get you into a debate that my 25-year-old and I just had recently, which I think is a very good debate. But is there any prepper gear that you hear people that they're like, so I just went out and I bought fill in the blank, and you're like, why would you, where did you see that this was a good idea? And they're like, oh, I saw it on, an infomercial
on YouTube
or YouTube or yeah, exactly. On YouTube or something. Is there anything out there from that standpoint where you're like, don't buy this? This is a horrible idea.
Yeah. So I don't know that there are things that I would say if somebody is, especially someone's just starting, there are things that I would recommend. There are things that I think are better priorities than others. If you think getting something and you have a reason to have it. I think a lot of times people say, oh, I got this, I got a GPS, I got a Garmin Explorer Plus GPS system with satellite. It's got satellite text messaging. And people are like, why would you have that? And I was like, well, because our family is close. And if the phone lines go down, we can use the satellite to communicate and at least let everyone know where to rendezvous. And we can still communicate with our out-of-state contact. And they're like, but that's really expensive. And I was like, well, that's why I got the text messaging and not the sat phone, because it's less expensive per month. But for me, it's insurance. It's a cost. Some people might think it's crazy and we'll just walk and it'll be fine. So I think to everyone, there is a certain personal spin that they're going to put on their preparations. What is most important to them? What makes them feel the most comfortable? Those sorts of things. There are things that I have.
What's the ridiculous thing, Casey? Don't get.
Oh, there's many ridiculous things.
I want to hear the one that you were like, why? Why? You're concerned about flooding, so you bought candles. Explain this.
Exactly. So I'll tell you, a lot of mine have come from buying something, thinking it was a good idea, trying it out, learning about it, and then being like, this, I wish I had not done that. Like one of the things was I got a Forerunner for a car a few years ago, and I wanted to get one because I wanted the off-road capability and all of that. I had to figure out how to make the finances of it make sense. And then because I was working, I was able to get it part of the business, and it made a whole lot more sense. But I decided I was going to get new wheels because I liked them and I thought they were cool. I had a whole plan for like all the things. I was going to get a second battery. I was going to get a lift kit. I was going to get bumpers and all these sorts of things. But first off, I got the roof rack and I got wheels. And I wished if I could go back and talk, like, don't get the wheels. Get the bumper, get the lift kit. Don't get the wheels. The wheels were not, because now I'm like, when am I going to get the other thing?
Couldn't afford nothing else because the wheels.
Exactly. I was like, why did I do that? The other things were things like we needed to store water. And so I got Aquatainers, and everyone talks about Aquatainers, and you see them
now. What's an
everywhere? So there are these cubes for holding water. They're bright, they're dark blue. They sell them at Dick's Sporting Goods. They sell them at the agricultural stores. They sell them at Cabela's. They sell them everywhere. And they're meant to have water, and you can unscrew the top, and it has a faucet on the end of it. They're really handy. They're 7 gallons. So if you're staying home, like, okay, that's fine. You can put it on your side. But if you want to leave, the thing, I think water is 7 or 8 pounds per
7
gallon.
pounds per gallon.
Yeah. So it's a 50-pound thing of water that you're moving, which is not easy to do. And, it may not be easy for some adults. It's sure not easy for, kids or anything like that.
The 4-year-old's not dragging that around.
Yeah. And it's big, and it's hard to clean, and it's hard to maintain. So I have since switched to more things like, for at home, our hot water heater. I got IBC totes. I got the 275-gallon IBC totes, so we can store a lot of water. I got 5-gallon drinking containers that you would put like in an office water cooler thing. So you can get a pump on Amazon, and you get the 5-gallon containers, and you put a pump on it, and then you can pump water out. And it makes it like a water faucet. But it's 5 gallons. It's not 7. It's a little easier to move. It's more standardized with other things. You can get a 3-gallon version. You can get a 1-gallon version. So you have a lot more flexibility with that than you do with these gigantic, heavy Aquatainers. So that's one of the things I got. Another thing was I got this epoxy pen that I saw. I don't remember if I saw it on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, but I saw it somewhere, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the coolest thing. You've got duct tape and all these other things. This thing can actually seal stuff. It's fantastic. So I ordered it. It came. I told some of my friends, I was like, oh my goodness, I got this thing. It's this epoxy pen. It's amazing. And they were like, it is garbage. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, we saw the same thing like 2 years ago, and it has been in a drawer because it does not work. It doesn't cure. It doesn't hold. It's garbage. And I was like, well, that's great. That's fantastic.
So that's the one right there then.
I think that was one. There's lots of them that you come up with that you find, and you're like, it seems like a good idea at the time, and then it just isn't. And it's, for some of them, I've gotten like I love Leathermans. So I have a bunch of different Leathermans. I wouldn't say that the ones that I don't use anymore aren't good.
I'm a knife guy. You like
yes.
Look, I've got 3 of them within reach of me at any, and I didn't even think about it. Like 2 of these are sitting in me. I always have one in my pocket. To me, carrying a knife in my pocket is like, our parents used to say you always carry a lighter in your pocket.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and like when I was I had never in my life owned a pocket knife until 3 or 4 years ago. I had like a Swiss Army knife, like when I was a kid, because that was a thing you did.
Right.
But like I was never a knife guy, and I never had a knife. So I had to go out, and I was like, oh my goodness, everybody says I have to have knives, so let's go get some. And I got some that were on sale. I got some all over the place. What I realized is you need to know what you like. I like the thumb hole. With a flip out. Yeah, I don't like the where there's the post and it.
Yeah, that's funny you would say that. So I like the post.
Yep.
And I like assisted open.
Yep. And I like to have the control, because for me, I don't use knives a whole lot. So there's still a bit of hesitation for me. So I want to, be feeling like I'm in control of it. Yeah. So, I wish that I hadn't gotten the post knife, because I don't use it at all. It sits in a thing. I wish I had a lot more of the other ones. But, so those are, I think, the things, you can see a lot of the like freeze-dried food stuff where it's like, oh my goodness, we're getting freeze-dried food. We're getting buckets of it. And it's like, okay, well, did you actually read what was included in it? Because a third of it, for the most part, is the orange drink and the dessert that you're not going to eat, or So what was the point of that? But it counts on the cost.
Well, they just changed the name of the one company. I've got some of their stuff. The because with a W, it used to be
Wise.
Wise, and now it's got a new name to it.
It's like Everwise. Like
Yeah, it's like
they got real creative. They were like, hold on,
look,
why
dude,
is this a
I've even
problem?
I got. Do you have one of these?
Is that a belt?
No, it's a bracelet.
Oh, very cool.
I mean,
I have a bracelet like that. It does not have the buckle that yours has. But I have some bracelets like that.
But see, so I love Casey, you and I could have this conversation all day, and there's definitely some other.
What, you got plans? You got somewhere to go tonight?
I don't, but I'm just saying, like, this is the kind of like conversations. Like, I love getting into this conversation. I have a son who's 25, and I wouldn't say he's about a stone's throw from a tin hat. I love it. He's about a stone's throw, but he's really good with looking into stuff. He's a good researcher. Problem is he gets caught in some of the rabbit holes that are out there. And, some I agree with him. Everything is there. We announced who the new big baddie is, and they are the new big baddie. If you can't figure it out, they control everything. They control everything Japan used to control when I was a kid. It just moved to the other side of that waterway. Now they own everything. And if you don't think so, go look into it and go research. Like, that's a legitimate one. You research and you go, hey, the Chinese government owns like 14 or 15 of the major world ports. They had nothing. Their gross domestic product wasn't even like anything impressive until the Clintons got into office, and they brought them onto the world stage. And that's how that's why we have the problems we have now. If you look into it, it's like ridiculous. You're like, so my son gets caught into that one, but he gets way deep into it, like way deep. And I'm like, not everything was them. Most of it today is, but not everything. So we did have this interesting conversation. So I don't know Oregon laws. I don't know what your firearm laws are. I do know you have a tropical rainforest in Oregon, though. You do have a rainforest.
Do we?
Oregon has a rainforest. Yes, absolutely. You have a rainforest.
It wouldn't surprise me.
But it's not it's not tropical because it's not up here. But you guys have that. There was even a TV show where the guy lived out there for a while. In Oregon, you have a rainforest. You have like one of the largest rainforests in the world is in Oregon.
Really? Yes. I mean, it rains a lot, and we have forests.
Yeah,
I did not know that we had a rainforest.
Let's see if I can, if Dibs can get to it before I can, because I know he's still watching. Oregon with rain. Oh, you guys are playing Ohio State this weekend.
No, we're playing Washington. We already played Ohio State and beat them, and now we're ranked fourth. Yeah,
the Valley of Giants.
I have no idea where that is.
It says the Valley of Giants covers 51 acres, and you'll find it's about 31 miles east of Lincoln City. The stunning.
It's it's on the coast.
Yep, the stunning little temperature rainforest gets about 180 inches of rain every year, and it's full of towering western hemlocks and Douglas firs.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, that's cool. I mean, coming over the coast, it's always kind of cloudy and misty and everything, but there was a rainforest.
There you go.
The things you learn from people who aren't from Oregon. That's fantastic.
But so we were talking, my son and I, and one of the things that came up was right firearm during it. And I said, and we weren't talking like, I need to protect my home. No one's getting into here. I'm like, look, I'm not worried about that shit. I have things for that, not concerned. I have 2 cats.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. But we were talking from sustaining food, hunting standpoint. And he was like, he really was like, Dad, I think the 20 gauge shotgun makes more sense. You can buy a rifled slug for that. You can buy small shot for it. You're not gonna run out as much because not as many people are gonna buy a 20 gauge. Everybody thinks they need the 12 gauge pump. They need that thing. Where we talked about it, I said, son, I still believe in, for that aspect, the 22 or the 17. And we both had good reasonings. And what it came down to, I know where I kind of stood with both of them. One of them, I was like, if I'm staying home, that one makes more sense. If I've got to travel, this other one makes more sense. Do you get into the firearm side of it, or is it kind of like, man, I'm going Daryl Dixon, all about the crossbow,
I like landmines.
all about it. Fucking
I
yeah.
just put landmines everywhere. Exactly. Yeah, we have like a wetlands behind our house, just landmines,
perfect.
and then it's coyotes, it's ducks, it might be kids. I don't know. Whatever happens, happens. For entertainment purposes only, we do not have a wetlands behind our house. Anyway,
But there are
so
landmines.
yeah.
I do not have a wetlands behind my house, but we
So
do
I
have
will say
landmines.
I grew up without firearms as part of my world. That was not something I grew up with. That was not something I even came in contact with. This is part of the evolution. As we're talking about camping, when we have that other conversation, I mean, whoever's head had not exploded because I went camping. When we had the other conversation, absolutely heads exploded. But I have friends who are NRA instructors and ex-military and that sort of stuff. And so for me, it has always been just like with everything. I always think that a lot of people want to be the smartest person in the room, even though they don't know what they're talking about. They just want to be the smartest person. And sometimes being the smartest person in the room is knowing who the smartest person in the room is. And so I've gone to those people and said, okay, these are the scenarios. What do I need to do? What do we need? What does it look like? What's training? What's safety? What's all of those things? Fill it in. And they're the ones that spend all the time testing and doing all that sort of stuff. I don't talk about it really on my channel. Because it's just not a thing that it's one of those things that because it can be emotionally involved for people, tends to put people off if you're trying to be as Urban Prepper and I refer to ourselves like prepping for beginners. It's the Fisher Price of prepping. It's the My First Prepper. It's that sort of thing.
My little prepper.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of times when I would go to I go to a channel for prepping and they would be talking about food preparation and they'd pull out 18 guns behind themselves and you're like, I was curious about your canning process. I don't what happened here? This is a different thing. And so, for my channel, I always try to just like, it's an unspoken thing that certain people ask me privately, separately, and I'll talk to them about it. But it's not something I talk about on the channel because it becomes a thing. And I'd rather people hear the everything else and then go find their friend that does that than look to me for that sort of thing. And I'm not in any way qualified to speak in any sort of expert way on that subject.
Answer my question.
Yeah,
Answer my question, Casey.
I have people that I talk to, and those people
answer my question. Settle the debate between me and my kid.
I told you, landmines.
Landmines.
RPGs,
bouncing
something
betties.
like that.
There are bouncing betties and toe poppers everywhere.
Look, if you could hunt a deer with a 22 or a 2 something, again, look, I've said I'm not an expert, and you look at me like I'm silly.
So here's
you could use like a rifle, and then you're like, okay, that takes the deer down. If you use an RPG, it's already cooked. I'm just saying, I'm about.
You're not wrong. It's already jerky. You can carry it everywhere at that point. You're not wrong. Well, because our conversation my son was like, hey, the 20 gauge shotgun. We were just talking about it. I was like, that's great if I'm staying home.
Yeah.
Like, it's a perfect thing. Like, if, hey, situation dictates we're going to stay in one location, I'm going to walk out in the backwoods because we live on 3 acres and we have another large piece behind us. Hey, that's fine. But if I know I've got to like hike out, 20 rounds of 20 gauge weighs a heck of a lot more than 50 rounds of that 22 that I can knock down squirrels and rabbits.
Oh yeah.
All day long.
Yeah. 22. I mean, even, when there were shortages of things, you could at least usually find some 22. You could find shotgun ammo. I found that way more easy at places than I could any sort of rifle ammo, anything.
Oh yeah.
But you could get a whole lot more 22 ammo when you were buying it than you could anything else.
Well, everyone
So
thinks that they're going to be sniping people off of their roof. Stay away from my stuff. I'm going to snipe everyone off my roof. No, you're not.
yeah,
No, you're not.
I subscribe to the yellow jacket theory when it comes to that. So there's the gray man theory, which is okay, you want to blend in and you want everybody to to just not even see you. And I
Okay.
think that's a great strategy, and in a lot of ways I am fully on that. And in certain situations I prefer the yellow jacket theory, which is yellow jackets and other animals have bright colors on their bodies to let predators and other animals know that they are not tasty, that they are not fun, and everything else. So in that situation, I want to look like I could snipe someone from across the way. I don't want to, I don't plan to, but if someone is walking down the street thinking, oh, I am looking for food, I want them to look at our house and I want them to look at another house and I want them to think that that other house is probably the better option than our house.
So that
Um,
explains the 10-foot fencing with barbed wire, double fence that you sent me the picture of out front of your place,
exactly. Yes.
which was
Yes.
very odd in a residential prefab community to
You
have
know,
that.
you don't see that at the Home Depot,
You
but you can
don't.
order it online.
I mean, it's there. I mean, it's an option for you. That's so great.
But yeah, and I think that's and a lot of the people that I talk to, it's about deterrent. It's some
Right.
people want to go out and they just want to in the apocalypse. We're going. I'm taking your stuff. Like I just want you to leave me alone, and I
Right.
want to go somewhere else.
Well, that's the other side to it. Is let's be honest here, folks. You've watched a lot of movies.
Yeah.
March 20th told us everything. You bitches ain't ready. You're not prepared. You're scared. I went to BJ's. My wife and I were like, well, we got plenty of stuff at the house, but we'll go pick up some extra stuff just in case. We normally buy fresh vegetables and we have a garden outside, but we'll pick up some canned stuff just in case, things happen.
Yep.
Standing in the BJ's line that looked like something post Second World War Germany trying to, get a meal. I'm like, what is going on here? Shelves just like ransacked. And that's why I believed him.
My first videos that really I've been doing my channel for a few months, and then the first COVID case in the US was in Oregon. And it
Was that the
started
nursing home was in Oregon?
Yep. It was there was a nursing home in Washington, and there was also a nursing home in Oregon, I think.
Okay.
A teacher. And the hospital that they went to was about 2 miles from our house. It's by the Chipotle that we go to all the time. So the teacher was at one of the local elementary schools. There was a whole, I think it was a teacher. I don't know if it was PE teacher or not, but it was some sort of a teacher with one of the local school districts, and it became everywhere. And what I started to see was people posting that were out, starting to post the lines on Facebook.
Oh,
people
yeah.
starting to back up people. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to go see what it looks like. We're good on food. But I'm just going to go see what it looks like. And that's when I started posting videos of walking through the stores and the empty and that's what I went from a couple hundred subscribers to 3,000 subscribers to 5,000 subscribers, like off of those videos and the follow-up videos and some of that. So that really kind of kickstarted. So if you can find a pandemic and you want to start a YouTube channel, like that's your thing. That was the okay, now we have to stay ahead of the horde. We have to stay ahead of the people who are out there trying to. So what do we have? And I have a PDF, on my website and stuff. That's kind of this inventory assessment, just designed for people who don't have anything or don't know where they start. Where are you? What should you get? What are you trying to do? It just organizes your thoughts a little bit. And we went through it, and it was kind of an exercise of, if we have to quarantine for 2 weeks, if the kids get it and then we get it, we're quarantined for 4 weeks. Like, do we have enough food to do that? Because at that point, nobody knew,
Right.
could you even go out of your house? So I went to the grocery store and we filled in all the slots, and I've made a new kind of version of it that's going to come out in a couple of weeks. That's a lot more in depth, and it's based off of everything that we did kind of in that time period. That I wish I was, I was writing stuff down and taking notes and things, and so we did that. But the empty shelves were crazy, and then it was, well, the children's medicine is selling out everywhere. So I would get on the Target app and reserve things at multiple stores because I just didn't know,
Right.
I knew I could get to one store, but before it would sell out, I could have the drive up people pull the orders at the other stores in case by the time I got to one, it was sold out, I would have one purchased. And then I would cancel whatever I didn't want so other people could have it.
Well, that's the whole other thing right there is,
yeah,
prepping, you still have to be a human. You're not going to be the Ferengi on Star Trek who owns everything black market, and you're going to make a living off of it as the world comes crumbling. Guess what, folks? If I know anything about people, I just was having this conversation with my financial planner. When I was a kid, I can remember when the Dow hit 10,000. It was like, the Dow hit 10,000. It's never been this high. And everybody's like, this is amazing. This is incredible. And then we had like a crash. We had the crash in 07.
Yeah.
The world's coming to an end. We're in poverty, food lines. The world's coming to an end. It's over.
Everybody just check out. We're done.
We're done. It's like 22,000 or something like that now.
It's 30. It was 36,000.
Was it?
Yeah.
Today. Tells you how much I pay attention. It's 36,000. So in the time of my life from being in high school and it hitting 10,000 in the early 90s to now, it is more than tripled. Guess what, people? Rich people don't ever want to be poor. Guess what they don't want you to do? They don't want you to stop working because then they can't be rich anymore. So some of this stuff, like, I agree with Casey. You got like 4 weeks, I think, is genius. If you can have 4 weeks of stores, be able to stay in your home for 4 weeks, you've got a backup plan for 4 weeks. That's genius to me.
Yeah. And I think some of it too, when you talk about like, there's a lot of like prepping versus hoarding.
Yes.
Stocking up versus hoarding. And a lot of people, when people would go out and buy stuff and you're hoarding and you're this and that. And I think some of it, to your point about being human, it's okay. If I know that something is running out and I can get there first, then I can secure that for my family, because at that point, the most important thing is my family.
Right.
So, it's not something that we like to talk about, but okay, if I get there first or you get there first, somebody's going to get the thing. And so let's get the thing. But I don't need all the things. I just need as many of the things as I think I'm reasonably going to use before it expires or runs out or whatever. So it was the thing with like the kids' medication. People were buying whole shelves. It's like, I don't need 40 boxes of children's Advil.
Right.
I need to make sure I have one box of children's Advil or maybe 2 boxes because we're going into cold season and I have 2 kids and I want to make sure that we have that. I think that's the thing. It was like toilet paper. Like people were going nuts with toilet paper, and it's like, okay,
like you're not wiping your ass that much.
Well, and it's the thing about it's the panic of, because there were moments that I was even like, oh my goodness, should we have more of this? Should we have do we have enough? And like I've done the math and figured out like, okay, we don't need more, but there's a certain amount of, if you don't think it's going to exist, trusting in your calculation and just general, I think, human nature about scarcity. And we would go out, like we had Clorox wipes. We go to Costco and we get the Clorox wipes. But when you couldn't find Clorox wipes, I was like, oh my goodness, do we have enough? And so every time I would see Clorox wipe on a shelf, even though it was limit 1 and everything, I would get one. Right. Because I was like, I don't know, like we're using them. I don't know when they're going to be available. But then when they came back into stock, okay, I wasn't buying pallets of, I'd see people sell pallets of hand sanitizer. You're like, why did you do that? Right. You're not going to use it. You're just doing it
to be a douche.
Keep it from other people. Like that's not reasonable.
Well, they had a guy out here in New York um, get himself in a fair amount of trouble. I don't remember what the final charge was, uh, but he was like the little 99-cent bottles. He
Oh
was
yeah.
selling like for $10, $20, whatever it was. I don't remember, but he got. It was funny to me is he got hemmed up for price gouging, but we've all been like the big boys have done that to all of us plenty enough times.
Oh, sure. And I
I
think
haven't had
there's
a good good tank of gas since Katrina.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and some of that will happen, and there's supply and demand and all that sort of stuff. I always think it's interesting, like when you go on Facebook Marketplace and people are just screaming, like when PlayStations and Xboxes are out, and somebody went and stood in line and got one or
Right.
whatever, and they're selling it for 10 or 20% more than what they paid
Oh,
for
how
it.
dare you! You suck. You're
You're
bullshit.
evil. You should give it's like you should give it away. Like, wait,
What?
no, they you don't have to buy it. Like it's not something you have to do. It's
Right.
not even something that you should do. But like you don't have to scream about it. Makes no sense.
Yeah. They're not
And
keeping a kid's cancer medicine from them.
exactly. And I think things like when hand sanitizer you can't find anywhere and we're in a pandemic, like okay, that's a problem if you have bought all the hand sanitizer and you are now selling it for 10x what you paid for it. That doesn't make it that's not okay. And it's kind of one of those things of like free speech and yelling fire in a
At a movie
in a
theater?
theater. It's like, yeah, you can say all the things, and unless you're putting other people in danger, unless you are, not being a good person,
Yeah. It's
there's a
not like you're
line.
raising the price of an EpiPen 7, 8 times its price that could cause somebody to lose their life. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, come on, that would be silly.
that would
That
be
would be
crazy. Who
silly.
would do such a thing
Yeah,
and get away with it
yeah,
while your parents are senators and congress people or whatever they were? I mean, who
yeah,
would do such a thing?
yeah, yeah. It's just crazy.
I mean, I don't have a tin hat. I promise you. I
That's okay.
promise you.
I have health insurance and one of those copay cards.
Yeah.
So we have a zero out of pocket for EpiPens. I see
Yeah.
the EOB. I'm like, how did they bill the insurance company that much? But
Dude, I look at some of that and I'm always like, like I said, I retired out 20 years in the Marine Corps. So
yeah,
that's where mine came from. And I look at some of those things and I'm like, that was one of my preps.
yep.
I say it all the time. That was a prep for me.
Oh yeah,
I'm going to spend this 20 years. I'm going to do this, and this piece is going to come to me, and that's a prep for me.
exactly. And it's fantastic and well earned and well deserved.
But those are the things, and we're going to put a bow on it here soon. And I'm going to get you. I want you to come back.
Yep.
I think a cool idea is if we could get you to come back, and maybe we could do, because this one I wanted to talk about just to introduce all 4 of my listeners to you.
Yeah. Yep.
All 4 of them get you. And sooner or later, I'll be back on Facebook where
Yeah, exactly. And then
what's killing me is like my Facebook views were like 780, 800 views when it was on there, and then shut it down for a month. You sorry bastard, Zuckerberg, you lizard man. Have you watched the new Netflix series, the animated series, where it's all about all the real stuff, like all the conspiracy theories are real and it's all ran by one company?
I haven't. No.
It's hilarious. And they just had the reptoids. You've heard that theory before, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were doing the reptoids, and Zuckerberg was a reptoid, which was so great.
Since I have a working Facebook page, I am going to for all of the
This is just
voice stuff that's going to get analyzed in this. I am not.
They pulled. You saw they pulled that, right?
They did the facial recognition
Right.
stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Over a billion faces.
Yeah.
All I felt like when they said that, we were like, yeah, we're going to pull this up, was like, yeah, we've already started off. Don't worry about it.
That was with the one of the crypto channels that I watched. That was their take on it too. They were like,
oh, really?
Like, they're just gonna, they just put it on a different thing.
Yeah. Like, we don't have this anymore, guys.
See, one of the things I think is interesting is I work with a lot of companies that, marketing data and stuff, and everyone's concerned about marketing data. And I will tell you, working with some amazing marketing companies, the amount of data that they have, the amount of people that are actually looking at that data and doing any sort of analysis on it is so small. It is
really
remarkably small. Now, things like facial recognition of Facebook, like, I mean, they have engineers and stuff and they've built their business on it. But a lot of people that are concerned that, okay, if I go to this website, now I'm getting this crazy ad and they're following me and all this stuff. Like, a lot of that stuff is just automated stuff based on your preference, because people that see that and are interested are likely going to want that thing in the future, and it increases conversion rate. There isn't a guy sitting in the basement looking and being like, well, Johnny did it. Like, that's just not like, there aren't enough people to do that.
That's the GPS trackers in the shot.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
I watched this guy, and he was another service member. He's like, look, I was in the Gulf War. We had some of the highest speed GPS Blue Force trackers, and I know exactly what he was talking about. That you're supposed to be able to track where each other is, where other allied nations are.
Was this a guy on TikTok?
Yes, and he went through the whole thing, and he's like, we couldn't find our own people. I'll be damned if they're putting something in you that they can find you. It was like,
exactly. And that's like, I think the thing is, like, people think that there's just these amazing conspiracies to get all of your stuff and track you and find out. It's like, first off, you have a phone
right
in your pocket.
They found
likely
you.
Always. If anyone wanted to do that, like, you're already signing up for that. So the fact that, like, you went to Bed Bath & Beyond and then you got a Bed Bath & Beyond coupon, Bed Bath & Beyond doesn't care that you went home first or anything else. They got a beacon that you went to their store, and they got a beacon that you were on Facebook. Like, that's what they got, and they sent you an ad. And by the way, you then spent money at Bed Bath & Beyond, and it worked.
Haha, look at that shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dumb, you big dummy.
Yeah.
It worked. But, and these are, we're kind of touching into the very fringe preppers. We joked around. I got a guy I used to work with, love him to death. He was a good dude. He definitely was that guy that I told you he had a guy he would contact and tell him what he needed. And that guy would go buy his preps for him and then send them to him so that he felt the government couldn't track him. And in my mind, I was always going, but bro, doesn't that guy have a record of what he sent you?
Yeah.
So he knows who to send what to? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, and it was also like, what? Okay, let's say the government knew that you liked red towels from Bed Bath & Beyond. What do you think they're going to do with that? Like, they're not going to sell towels anymore? They're only going to sell blue towels? They're going to confiscate red towels for some reason because they ran out at the pool? Like, what? That's another thing I've never fully understood. Is there some things that people, think they're going to get taken away, and there's some validity in some of that. But then it's things like, it's Toys R Us. Like, do you really care that Toys R Us knows that you like McDonald's? Like, what are they going to do with that information?
Well, Toys R Us probably could still be in business if they knew I liked McDonald's, but
you know what? That also is a thing too. They probably would have if they had the marketing plan.
If they had better marketing. That was that was an amazing store when I was a kid. Like that was a store you're like, Mom, I want to go in there. No, we ain't going in there. We're not going in there. Because you would see because we had like KB toys on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was a national.
We had KB and we had Toys R Us.
So that's what we had. We had KB and we had Toys R Us, and like KB would have like some great stuff, and you'd be like, yeah. But KB was like the convenience store of toys. Yeah. And there was always like just so much crap on the floor because somebody had knocked over something and you couldn't get up and down the aisles of KB because they were so packed.
Yeah.
But you went into Toys R Us and that was like Macy's of toys. You were like, this is amazing. And you would go in there, be like full blown displays of your favorite stuff. And you're like, I've got to have that.
And it had a smell to it.
It did.
Like Toys R Us had it. There was a Toys R Us smell. And when you went into Toys R Us, you knew that you were at Toys R Us.
It smelled like pool cleaner because they sold pool care stuff there.
Yeah, yeah. And so it was a whole experience.
Yep.
And then they just decided to go into massive amounts of leverage debt and not actually do anything online. Which
is insane.
Yeah, and then they had problems, but now they might be back, or they might be part of Target. Who knows? Like, they
Well, that's
keep
the other
changing
thing
all the
is
time.
companies buy, they just want the name. It's
Oh yeah,
give me the name. It was like, you know, you look at some of these restaurants, like one of my favorite restaurants. We're done talking about preps for a minute, folks. We're gonna
yes,
talk about other bullshit because we're gonna geek out for a moment. We got about another 10 minutes we're gonna geek out for here, maybe a little longer, who knows?
yeah.
But like one of my favorite restaurants growing up as a kid, I recently looked it up. One of my favorites growing up as a kid, and then another one that we loved, I found out wasn't the name that I thought it was. So loved Farrell's, it was called growing up as
Yes,
a kid. You had Farrell's?
we did the ice cream place.
Oh, bro.
Yes, but it
You
was
just
old
became like
school.
you just got into my MySpace 5. Like, look at
You
you.
know what? I'm me and Tom were right there.
Oh,
But
I
there was only one location, and it was like on the east side of Portland, and so we were on the west side, so we never really went.
oh,
Like,
the
we went maybe once or twice.
Golden Ring Mall
But
was our only one.
yep,
Amazing birthday parties,
yep,
great ice cream. There's like one left in the entire country. I looked it up not long ago, if it still even made it through COVID.
yep,
There's one left. Waffle fries.
yep,
They had an amazing taco salad.
yep.
And when I was a kid, I used to get their hot fudge sundae, and you could ask for extra hot fudge, and they would get me these little metal cups full of
Yep.
like, oh, it was amazing.
They had like a huge sundae too. That was like the organ
Yes.
grinder or something, and it was just gigantic. And it was like everyone should eat this thing, and people would just hurt themselves trying.
Yes. And
So
on the
yeah,
way out, and it had an old school candy shop, was at least ours was, when you left. So you went through like an old school, like with jaw break, like the
oh yeah,
big
ribbon
crazy,
candy and all the stuff.
yeah, the big crazy jaw breakers that like no one could ever finish. And yeah, that was that one. And we had a place called Bob's Big Boy. And Bob's Big Boy, I found out by going to Ohio, is actually another, its real name is like Freioff, FREIO8FF, some shit like that. But they're a chain. But we had one of them in Baltimore, and it was called Bob's Big Boy.
Yep.
And it was the same damn restaurant. And I found out well into my almost 40s. I saw one. I'm like, oh, look, it's a Bob's Big Boy. And then I pull up and I'm like, that's not Bob's Big Boy. What the hell's the name of this? And then I found out that later that these people can buy these restaurants, and you could have it, but you could call it whatever you want. But it was Bob's Big Boy, and then it was this other name.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'll see how I find Bob's Big Boy, Baltimore. Let's see if it gives me Baltimore, Maryland memories. Bob's Big Boy on Merritt Boulevard. But it's so yeah, like there it is. So it's a restaurant chain founded by Bob Wayne, originally named Bob's Pantry, and then now Bob's Big Boy Restaurant Group. We're gonna get a whole lesson on restaurants here, folks.
Yeah.
That
we
I
went
never
from the
met.
apocalypse to double doubles.
But there's definitely some restaurants out there that. All right? Because we're gonna close it up soon. Because I just had a great idea.
Yeah, well, you're on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. My wife is like, "Are you gonna have dinner anytime tonight?" Like that's the text message that I'm getting right now.
That's so awesome. Tell her
relax. Have dinner before tomorrow's breakfast.
Tell her relax. We got this. So here's a great question. One fast food chain you hope makes it through the apocalypse.
Oh, that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one.
You get one.
See, one, I don't know that. I mean, one, you got to go with like a staple or something. But
one,
yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go with like Baja Fresh or Chipotle or something like that.
Never had a Baja Fresh. I had plenty of Chipolati.
Oh yeah. I think Baja Fresh was before Chipotle, and then Chipotle became like the thing. But I actually we like them both, and we have both of them similarly, and so it's kind of like some nights it's Chipotle night because we're feeling like that, and then sometimes it's a Baja Fresh night because it's a little different. It's kind of like Burger King and McDonald's. It's like both burgers, but they're just slightly different.
Do you have Moe's?
I don't know if we have Moe's or not.
We have Moe's, which is probably like That's like the off-brand for
Yeah.
Chipotle, like more brighter colors.
Yeah. Yeah. I think something, yeah, Baja Fresh is kind of like that. So I like that. I mean, I would say Five Guys too, because Five Guys is amazing. Um, but they use peanut oil in their French fries, and my son's allergic to peanuts, so like we would be limited there in how effective that restaurant could
Have you ever
actually
been
be
to
for us.
BurgerFi? You ever been to BurgerFi?
No, we don't have that one over here.
BurgerFi is real good. We have that over here, and they serve beer at BurgerFi.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a step up.
Um,
We just got Shake Shack and In and Out,
Shake Shack's,
and
I don't get the appeal to In and Out. I've had In and Out.
no,
I'm not. No.
I've heard it's remarkably disappointing. I haven't been because they
Yes.
put it in the middle of nowhere, and
Um.
it's still like a 2 hour wait to get to it.
Yeah. No.
Um, so like they put it in it's like a suburb of the capital city of Oregon. So it's like 45 minutes away from Portland, and but they put it there. Now they're supposedly going to put more in, and so I would imagine we'll try it then. But I've heard it's not great. Shake Shack was disappointing.
Yeah.
Um,
Shake Shack's like the shakes are really good.
yeah,
The burgers are kind of like meh.
yeah. The burgers were meh, the fries were meh, and I would say the shakes were meh as well.
Really. See now,
Um,
the ones out here on the East Coast are pretty good.
yeah, Five Guys. I would say Five Guys. We love their burgers. I love their fries, and their shakes are
Have
fantastic.
you ever had a smash burger?
I have. We don't have one, but
They're
I've heard
good.
that it's fantastic.
Smash Burger's good. Burger 21 is
Yeah.
another really good one.
We
But
have
you
a
know
place
what mine
called
would be?
Burgerville out here that's really good, but it's regional. It's only
Like
like
there.
Washington and Oregon. But it's really good, and they make fantastic milkshakes on. So like we would do Burgerville over Shake Shack and In and Out
So
all
my
day, every day.
Apocalypse Survivor,
Mm-hmm.
but it would then have to spread nationally.
Yep.
Jack in the Crack.
Oh,
Jack in the Box.
very interesting.
Because
Interesting choice.
listen, folks, there is nothing fast food burger as good as an ultimate double bacon cheeseburger from Jack in the Box.
So I have not had that. I will have to put that on the list for this
Um,
weekend.
yeah, and then I actually had a master sergeant that I worked for in the Marine Corps. He's from Iowa, who swore that he was the creator of the ultimate double bacon cheeseburger. That he
Okay.
moved to California before he joined the Marine Corps, and while in the restaurant in the evenings, he would make those, and then somebody there saw what he was doing and liked it so much that they put it on the menu. He swore he was the creator of it.
Did he
Uh,
retire or was he reassigned?
um, he retired. I think he went back to Iowa. He was definitely a big and he would tell like corn, like true like husking corn, like sitting on the front of trucks and like doing stuff with corn. Like he was into it. But yes, that would be my one. And
Okay.
and the other side to it is they sell tacos.
They do, which
I mean,
I've never understood. I've not ever had one, but I never understood it. It's like an American cheese slice in the taco. I
it's
don't
amazing.
understand.
My mother swears that and I've talked to my mother about this. I'm like, yeah, oh, Jack in the Box. My mom's like, we used to have them in Baltimore. I'm like, what are you talking about? So we never had a Jack in the Box in Baltimore. She's like, I'm telling you, son, when you were little, we had Jack in the Box. She goes, there was only a couple of them in Baltimore, and they got pushed out by McDonald's, and they were gone. I'm like, I don't buy it, woman. I don't buy it. The internet. I should check the internet. So
Yeah.
we're gonna put a bow on this. I can see Casey emaciating right in front of my eyes.
Exactly. It's a sad state of affairs happening over here.
It's happening right now. I've never seen such a thing. Just emaciating in front of me.
And if you're confused, go to the YouTube channel and watch the video as I dissolve in front of your eyes.
Completely dissolve. You can watch it here. I'm gonna send him the video. This will be my first time sharing the video with somebody. We'll figure that whole thing out.
Yeah.
But as I've said earlier, check out Cascadia Dispatch, CascadiaDispatch.com, the Cascadia Dispatch YouTube channel. If you subscribe to his YouTube channel, you better come subscribe to my YouTube channel.
That is a must.
Our podcast. I think Casey and I are going to have to figure out another time to have him on. Maybe we'll do like seasonal prepping. We should do like seasonal prepping.
That would be good. I've got a calendar thing that I put together that's seasonal and everything. We could do that as well.
I think we should do that. We'll have to talk about it, figure out when we can do that. We'll like schedule like a seasonal prep, like, hey, it's spring. You've had all this stuff sitting in your garage that's probably going bad. It's time
exactly.
It's time to get rid of that shit and throw a party.
Yeah, it's summertime. You should probably take the snow boots out of your go bag.
Right. Yeah, they don't need to be there.
No.
So it just doesn't work for anyone. So on that note, again, go check out Casey at Cascadia Dispatch, CascadiaDispatch.com, his YouTube channel. As always, if you're listening to us, you're seeing us on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube. You found us, the Above the Bar podcast.
Smash the like button.
Smash it.
Smash it.
Like all my kids' shows, they're like, make sure you smash it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God, I hate you, Cocomelon. But make sure you go and you check those things out. If you want to send us a message, it's the Above the Bar podcast at gmail.com. Instagram, always posting who's going to be on with us on our Instagram. That's the Above the Bar podcast on Instagram. Our Facebook, the Above the Bar podcast. The only one that's off brand is the Twitter, which is at Above the Bar 4, because they wouldn't let me put my whole name on there. And somehow there's 3 more of us, or 4 probably. So make sure you look up the right one. It's at Above the Bar 4. Everybody that comes on the show always gets there, as is tradition here at the bar. Before we pull down the lights and close up shop, Casey, you get the last word, brother.
I just want to thank you for having me. This has been a blast. This has been super fun. I'm very much looking forward to our next iteration of this. I don't know where we're going. Maybe we'll do like, I don't know, your favorite like regular casual dining or something. We'll have like a whole food theme and a prep theme, and we'll just roll it all together.
Prepping for restaurants.
Yes, exactly. So thank you for having me. Thanks for listening. If you haven't, hit the subscribe button for the Above the Bar podcast down below, or on your favorite podcast app or social media or whatever. Smash the like button for all the algorithms, for everybody that's listening and everywhere that you can or can't be seen. Hit all of that. And we'll look forward to the next time.
All righty, folks. Be sure to push your stool in.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation. Found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.